Hello and welcome everybody to this presentation. My name is Peter Wallace and the title of my presentation is Utilizing a Token Economy System to Increase Showering Frequency for Young Adult with Autism. So the participant in this study is a single participant who will go by the pseudonym of Jake, in which he is an 18-year-old male who has been diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. Um, Autism spectrum disorder is commonly associated with difficulties or deficits in social communication, repetitive thoughts or behavioral patterns, as well as difficulties maintaining relationships, as well as completion of activities of daily living, which would include showering or other hygiene tasks as well. Um, so prior to this study, Jake was refusing showering essentially on all opportunities or moments where he was encouraged by caregivers, in which there would be multiple weeks that would go by in which there wouldn't be a single shower. Um, this resulted in other individuals saying that they didn't want to be around him or wanting space from him, um, which ultimately shows that he was having like a negative impact on his personal relationships and personal development due to his motivation or skill deficit of not showering or not completing these ADLs. So previous research on token economy systems have certainly been conducted and have displayed functional relationships between having a token economy system and completing ADL tasks. As well as this, there was research um, provided that targets like how to implement token economy systems, which this research was certainly taken into consideration and account when training the system provided or implemented for Jake. And the research question for this study is, will a token economy being implemented increase the frequencies of showering per week from the participant Jake? So the target behavior of teaching is showering, and the setting in this study is his home setting, where he'll be prompted by both of his parents, along with his older brother that lives with him as well. And so the method in this design was a single subject design, an ABAB design, in which the baseline included measuring the frequency of showering without any kind of intervention or token system in place. Um, so the independent variable is the token economy system, whereas the dependent variable is showering frequency within a calendar week period. So an ABAB design involves repeated reversal of treatment conditions, which has been shown to us by Cooper, the reference. Um, Jake included in this, who was included in this study, indicated to have a lack of motivation to complete these hygiene tasks, specifically showering, of course, indicating that it was more of a motivation deficit rather than a skill deficit. And research has shown that token systems can increase motivation. Therefore, it seemed fitting to do a like reward system for this target behavior. So in this particular token economy, Jake Kidd, he decided to choose for going to a restaurant of his choice for his reward, um, through completion of that token economy. So he was required to earn 3 different tokens or check marks as he was marking off on a like little flyer. Um, so where if he got if he showered on 3 different occurrences, then he could cash those in to go to his favorite restaurant, and he had the ability to select which restaurant he wanted to go to. Um, and so from there, data was recorded just on a electronic data system on Google Forms, where his parents would just go in each day and record simply if he showered or if he didn't shower, and then any relevant notes, if there were any. Um, and then training on the implementation of the token system was certainly completed and conducted with his caregivers. Along with this, Jake was definitely brought into the process in which he had the opportunity to select what he wanted to choose for the reinforcement, which he did, of course, select the restaurant outings, but he also did have the opportunity to select which restaurant he wanted to go to, within reason, but there wasn't really too much of a concern of him selecting too crazy of a budget restaurant to go to. And then along with this, consistent monitoring, training, and check-ins were provided to both Jake and his caregivers throughout this whole study. Um, so in the upright corner, you can see a nice visual graph for the various phases in the study. So the baseline study, you can see he did have one shower within that week long period. Um, but of course, the criteria that we were aiming for was 3 showers in a week. And so once we did put that intervention in place, he did he did succeed with the criteria of 3 showers. He actually got 4 showers, if you can see. And then, of course, with the ABAB design, we then went back to baseline. So we removed the token economy intervention and we just kind of went back to normal. And then you can see he did shower again within that week, but only one time. And then following that week, we of course put that intervention back in place, in which he did get 3 showers. Instead of 4 this time, he got 3, but we can still see a nice functional relationship between the implementation of the token system and the baseline phases. Um, and so for the discussion of this project, you can see that there is a functional relationship between the token system in this particular case. And this study may be helpful for future research in terms of utilization of token economy systems, specifically with activities of daily living or ADL skill sets. But this can also include other ADLs such as washing hands, brushing teeth, wearing deodorant, things of that sorts. Where this, I don't think this should be restricted to only a showering intervention and data of token systems, but it can also go along with what I believe any kind of motivational deficit for skill building and things of that sort. Possible limitations to the study could include maybe perhaps the loss of novelty of that reward, in which perhaps maybe down the line in a couple weeks, Jake will get kind of sick of going to these restaurants, and that reward may not be enough to ultimately make him want to shower. So that could be a perhaps limitation. Um, as well as this, um, the the learner may not have too many reinforcers just to begin with. In which this case, it was quite easy to decide what he wanted to work towards. It didn't take him long to say, "Oh, I want to go to my favorite restaurant." But of course, not all learners have a reinforcement or a reward repertoire, such as that, where it might be a little bit more challenging finding reinforcement schedules that will maintain that motivation. Um, and along with this, um, budget may be a large limitation, in which for similar designs such as this, it might be difficult for caregivers to have the budgeting available in order to afford or pay for like the selected reinforcement. So that might require some outside of the box thinking for like maybe spending quality time with the learner or going to the park, something that is less costly rather than going to a restaurant, of course. So that could definitely be another limitation of a study such as this. Um, if a similar study was to be conducted in the future, I would suggest to provide additional training to the caregivers in terms of prompting and redirecting the learner in case of like refusal behaviors um, or just any kind of like friction with the client refusing to do the task in which it seemed um, that there were some training needs that became clear, in which I then of course spent more time on the training section. But in future designs, I would suggest just right off the bat going as in depth as possible in the training. But yeah, overall, it was a great experience for me. It was a great learning experience in terms of training, implementing a token system, or just an intervention in general. And yeah, and then you can find the references down at the bottom right as well. But thank you so much for tuning in and listening to my research study.